Welcome back to Buy or Buy. Today, we're looking at the ultimate Porsche-built sleeper sedan. This is the 1991 to 1995 Mercedes-Benz 500e, chassis code W124.036. It's the masterpiece that Mercedes just couldn't quite build by itself. It's the four-door supercar that almost nobody recognized when it was brand new, and honestly, it's the cult classic that absolutely every single Mercedes enthusiast deeply regrets not buying a decade ago when you could scoop them up for just 20 grand.
Now, this car is practically the punchline to one of automotive history's strangest collaborations. Just picture this. Mercedes calls up Porsche and says, "Hey, we need you to build us a super sedan." And Porsche says, "Okay, sure, but we're going to ferry every single car back and forth between your factory in Sindelfingen and our factory in Zuffenhausen for 18 days during assembly." And Mercedes just goes, "Yeah, fine." The result is this legendary vehicle that is literally a secret Porsche product, just wearing a three-pointed star.
10,479. That's it. That is the incredibly limited number of these vehicles produced for the entire world over its brief production run. Just take a second to let that rarity sink in.
And out of that already tiny global production, just 1,528 were ever imported to the US. Honestly, you are way more likely to see a modern exotic at your local grocery store than to ever spot a genuine 500e out in the wild.
Section 1. A bizarre automotive collaboration. So back in 1989, Mercedes engineering was completely tied up. All their resources were totally consumed by the development of the massive W40 class. They really wanted to drop a massive V8 into the mid-size W124 chassis to fight BMW, but they hit a huge physical hurdle. To fit the new suspension and the wider track, the 500e needed flared fenders that were 56 millimeters wider than standard. And those wide hips literally could not fit down the standard Mercedes Sindelfingen assembly line. So what's the solution? Well, Porsche hand-assembled the cars, internally known at Porsche as Type 2758, in their legendary Rössle-Bau plant. Yes, that is the exact same building that previously assembled the iconic Porsche 959 supercar.
Section 2. Engineering the ultimate sleeper. Okay, let's dive right into this. To justify its jaw-dropping original $80,000 price tag, they needed some incredibly serious hardware. The beating heart of this sleeper is the hand-built, all-aluminum 5-liter M119 V8, derived straight from the 500 SL Roadster. It's got 32 valves, dual overhead cams, variable valve timing, and it was actually the very first Mercedes to use Bosch LH Jetronic fuel injection. 322 horsepower at 5,500 RPM, 354 pound-feet of torque at 3,900 RPM, and 0 to 60 miles per hour in 5.5 seconds. All of that pushes a roughly 3,700-pound chassis to an electronically limited 155 miles per hour. Visually, the 500e is basically a ghost. The only true giveaways to the untrained eye are those 56mm wider flared fenders and a 23mm lower ride height. Underneath the skin, it utilized the self-leveling hydropneumatic rear suspension borrowed from the 300TE wagon. And because that massive rear differential and suspension setup took up so much space, Mercedes actually had to move the battery to the trunk and make the back seat a strict two-person bucket layout. So yep, this is a dedicated four-passenger super sedan made it to a robust four-speed automatic powering the rear wheels.
Let's track how this builds across its brief legendary lifespan. Production officially launched in February of 1991. Then, with the 1994 facelift, it was renamed the E500, receiving cosmetic updates and, crucially, larger brakes pulled from the 600 SL. While general production ended in late 1994, a final batch of 120 cars were built between January and May of 1995. And fun fact, they were actually sharing factory floor space with the legendary Audi RS2 wagons at the time.
Section 3. Why this is a buy. So why is this specific chassis the one you want? Well, the W124 generation is widely regarded by enthusiasts and mechanics alike as the absolute last over-engineered Mercedes-Benz ever made. It's built like an absolute vault. And the crucial point here is that depreciation on the 500e has permanently reversed. Back in the 2010s, these were just old $20,000 used cars. But today, clean examples are hitting $60,000 to $90,000, and pristine ones go even higher. This is a genuine Porsche-built blue-chip classic in the making. It's tracing the exact same market trajectory that turned the vintage 300 SL Gullwing into an untouchable museum piece.
Section 4. Catastrophic 90s Maintenance Realities.
Now, before you go and empty your savings account, we really need to ground ourselves with a terrifying truth.
Maintaining a Porsche-assembled 1990s Mercedes requires a dedicated specialist mechanic and a very, very heavy wallet. Let's look at the critical failures. Step 1. The notorious biodegradable wiring harness. The engine harness, transmission harness, and fuse boxes literally rot away, costing $2,500 to $6,000 to replace. Step 2. Hydropneumatic self-leveling suspension failure. Between 80 and 150,000 miles, this complex rear system fails, costing $2,000 to $4,000 to fix. Step 3. 4-speed automatic valve body wear. Rebuilding this will easily set you back $2,000 to $3,500.
And you know what? Those are just the big-ticket items. You also have moderate issues to tackle. Now, the M119 V8 is bulletproof mechanically, but its valve cover gaskets absolutely love to leak, which is a $600 to $1,200 job. You're also going to deal with failing plastic end tanks on the radiators, snapped exhaust manifold studs, and clogged sunroof drainage tubes. Oh, and early 1992 models had aluminum Brembo front calipers that vibrated so badly, Mercedes actually had to replace them with cast iron AT units halfway through the year. Section 5. The super sedan market competitors.
Now, what's really interesting about this market divergence across 90s and early 2000s super sedans is pretty shocking. The contemporary BMW E34 M5, the supercharged Jaguar XJR, or even the 500e successor, the W200 E55 AMG, have all largely flatlined in the $15,000 to $60,000 range. They are depreciated performance bargains right now. On the other end of the spectrum, the older, ultra-rare AMG Hammer 6.0 W124 conversions are commanding $300,000 to $500,000. The 500e sits right in the middle. It is totally broken away from the depreciated pack and is rapidly appreciating as a recognized blue-chip asset.
Section 6. The final market verdict.
Let's break down the used market with surgical precision so you know exactly where to put your money. If you just want entry into Porsche-built Mercedes ownership, a 92 or 93 with over 100,000 miles will run you 30 to 50 grand. But the true buying sweet spot? That's a 1994 or 1995 E500. For $40,000 to $65,000, you get the aesthetic facelift and those absolutely critical larger 600 SL brakes. From there, it escalates quickly. Clean examples under 60,000 miles sit between $60,000 and $90,000, and sub-30,000-mile museum pieces command $90,000 to over $140,000. And hey, if you somehow find one of the ultra-rare, hand-built AMG E60 variants from 1994 or 1995, prepare to spend between $200,000 and $400,000.
So, the verdict on the W124 500e is a definitive, undeniable buy. It boasts exclusive Porsche assembly, a Porsche-tuned suspension, a legendary naturally aspirated V8, and a stealthy aesthetic that commands respect from anyone who truly knows cars. Depreciation on these has reversed permanently. The days of the $20,000 500e are long gone, and trust me, they are never coming back. So the question isn't really whether you should buy one. The provocative question is, can you afford not to buy the ultimate Porsche-built sleeper before six-figure price tags become the bare minimum for entry? Thanks for joining us on this breakdown on Buy or Buy, and we will see you on the next one.